I'll read from John 4, verse 48. That is John 4, verse 48. So Jesus said to him, "Unless you people see signs and wonders, you simply will not believe."
Have y'all ever gotten advice from somebody else? Trusted someone's recommendation? Maybe it was like to go get ice cream someplace or really good place to get dinner. Maybe they suggested you should read this book. Or maybe it was just a good piece of advice. Did you, of your own volition, go, get up, get out of your house, get in the car, and drive to the place, then spend money on whatever that recommendation from people was? Today, I'm going to tell you about a man who, based on the word he heard from others, decided to get up and go and seek out that thing. The thing was, this man was desperate, and this was his very last chance. Today, I'm going to be talking to you out of the Bible in John chapter 4, the second miracle recorded in the Gospel of John, the healing of the royal official's son. The purpose of this lesson is to show that Jesus' power works beyond what we can see and believe, so that we can act out of faith of his words. Now, this man was a royal official of some sort, either Roman, maybe he was a Judean official, but either way, he had power and authority. This was not your average Joe. He wasn't like an Ames student. He was more a faculty member. He had power and authority. If you told somebody to do something, they were going to do it. He had money, he had wealth, he had influence, and basically there was nothing wrong with him. Like, according to the world's standards, he could do anything. But the one problem that he had was something that his power and his authority couldn't help with. You see, his son was sick. Not just a cold, but terminally ill. He had a high fever, it sounds like, for multiple days, and I can imagine this man, he's waking up, it's the 15th day. My son's fever still hasn't broken. The doctors have tried everything they can do, but they're saying he's not going to last a whole lot longer. And he's scared. And he's near despair. He doesn't know what to do. No matter what he could do out of his power won't help this situation. But what he does do is he's heard the word of somebody greater than him. The power of someone above him, greater authority. Based on the word of others, the things people had told him about. This guy, Jesus, was apparently coming back into town, into the region of Galilee. He went to the town of Cana. Previously, last time he was there, he apparently turned water to wine or something like that. Crazy. And this man, out of his desperation, takes this as his only chance. My son's going to die, but this might be the only way to save him. So from the word of others and the truth he had been told, he acted on that, and he got up out of his house, and he walked to a different town in Cana. It was about 15 to 20 miles away. I don't think he was walking slowly. I think he was trying to get there quick. Because what if Jesus left? What if Jesus was gone by the time he gets there? Or maybe he gets there, the crowds are too thick, and he can't get to Jesus. What if he gets there and Jesus doesn't want to listen to him? All these thoughts are probably racing through his head, the doubts, the fears. But he has a greater motivation, because he believed what people told him about Jesus, and he was willing to act on that. So he gets there, and he finds Jesus. He falls down at his feet, and he's like, "Lord, please come to my house and heal my son, for he is sick, and he's about to die." I can see Jesus, he looks down at him, and is compassionate. But instead of answering him directly, he looks up at the crowds and he's like, unless you people see signs and wonders, you will never believe. Now, if you're the guy, you're like, I came to you, Jesus, to fix my problem. What are you talking to the crowd for? I don't understand the lesson you're trying to give here. I don't think the lesson was for him. The lesson was for everybody else. He says, you people will not see and believe unless you see signs and wonders. To believe, you have to see something. Well, you got to have actual physical evidence for it, right? And that's what they were looking for. They were hoping he was going to do another miracle. That's why they were all there, to watch that. This man came for a different reason. He wasn't worried about seeing the sign. He simply had something that he needed, and he was going to Jesus for that thing. If this man doesn't have faith, then I don't know who does. The definition of faith out of Hebrews 11, verse 1. Faith is the assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things not seen. This man had assurance. He had a belief that Jesus could do it, but when Jesus told him the words that I'm about to speak to you, he asked Jesus again, Sir, please heal my son. And Jesus says, go, your son will live. And immediately this guy is filled with hope and belief. The doubts aren't gone. They're still there. But he still has a belief, right? A greater belief, a faith. He has assurance now in what he's hoped for. He has conviction about what he can't see. He can't see his son right now. He can't text one of his servants and be like, is my son better? No, he's got to walk back home, and that's going to take a while. But he believes what Jesus told him. So, what can we learn from this? Well, the man was desperate and near despair. This was his last chance, but he believed the word that other people told him. The testimony of others is powerful, and it can change lives. Jesus asks us to believe in him, not through the signs and the wonders, but simply through his word, the truth that he gives us. Jesus says in John chapter 20, this is to his apostle Thomas, right after the resurrection. All the other disciples had seen him, but Thomas, and they're telling Thomas about it, but Thomas doesn't have faith like this guy. And he's like, I don't believe Jesus unless I can see him and put my finger in the hole in his hands and in his feet and in his side. Like, I need to see and touch to believe this. And Jesus says to him after he reveals himself and lets Thomas do that, because you've seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who believe without seeing. Blessed are those who believe without seeing. And this man hadn't seen, but he did believe in what Jesus could do. Now, did the official still have his doubts? I'm sure those don't go away just because you believe in something. But what you have to have a faith and hope in is that your logical reasoning for the reason you believe that Jesus can do this, you've heard about it, I have to believe that's true. And you got to turn those doubts off. They're not going to go away, but you have a faith that's stronger than your doubts. And he goes back home. Now that walk home would have been interesting. He is now had the word that his son will be healed, and he believes what Jesus told him. Doubts are still going, but he's walking back in faith and in hope. And he's halfway there, and then one of his servants runs up and is like, Master, guess what happened? Your son, he's completely healed. Made new. And the guy's like, I know. And the servant's like, how'd you know? You were over there. He said, well, somebody told me. What time did it happen? He's like, it was this hour yesterday. The man thinks back. That's the exact hour that I was speaking to Jesus. And then his belief was confirmed. The faith he had, which was something not a hope in something not seen, a conviction of that, became something that was seen. He had the physical evidence. And God works like that in our lives. For me, last year I was in AIM, but I struggled a lot with school, and eventually it led to my dismissal. And that was hard because it seemed like the whole plan that Jesus had set up for me, the life I had made, out the window, all demolitioned. And I was like, what am I going to do now? And I remember after that, I stayed up all night in prayer. And then the next morning, I got up really early and went to the park and just paced and jogged around for 2-3 hours or so, just praying the whole time. And despite the fact that what I believed to be my plan was gone now, I had something greater than just that belief, what I could see. I had a faith that Jesus had a plan for me. I didn't know what that plan was going to be. I didn't know what it was going to look like. But the faith I had was stronger than that. It was a spark. It was a flame inside of me that propelled me forward to, despite not doing what I was thinking I was going to be doing, I was going to be doing God's word and God's will everywhere I went. So when I went home, it was murky at first. It was cloudy waters. I could not see where I was going. I didn't know what was going to be happening. But as time went on, God provided the evidence and the conviction and the confidence in what I was doing. He provided fruit and works. I was able to disciple 2 young men at my church, and they were recently baptized and have now become new believers in Christ. And then I went on and was able to be a youth intern at a church that had never had a youth intern before. And they have like 15 young 8th grade guys and girls who want to know Jesus but have never been told about him. And this church is in desperate need, and God set that up. I had nothing to do with it, but he put all those pieces together. And he provided the evidence for the faith that I had. I knew he had a plan for me, and eventually that plan was revealed. So, the point is this. Our faith transcends belief, and we have to act on the words of Jesus. So put yourself in the official shoes. If you had something that you needed desperately, do you believe that Jesus could do that for you? You've been told of what Jesus can do through his Bible, through the Word, right? That's what this man had been told by others. But will you take Jesus' word, what he tells you, and act on it? My challenge is this. What is something that Jesus promised you? A change he could make in your life, something he's going to do for you that you haven't taken him up on. He has a plan for all of our lives and ways to change us and renew us and turn us into new creation, right? What's something that you haven't given over to him? I ask and challenge you to give that thing up and act on faith.
When I was younger, I worked with my dad a lot, and we did fencing. No, not sword fighting. We built fences. I dug holes and I pulled wire all day long. And in that, there's a type of fencing that we did. We did it mostly field fencing. And there was 2 main jobs. There's your supervisor, and there's the dummy work. I got the dummy work. My dad would sit, and he would be on the edge of the post. I would have the post in the hole, and I'd be trying to level the hole, and he'd be move to the side, and get it right where he wants it. And next is the concrete. And you think, oh, I'm holding the pole. We can't move the pole. We leveled it and everything. My dad would take the pole, and he'd move the pole. And then I'd pour the concrete, and he's like, all right, let's do it again. He wanted to be the one that did the less work, while I did the laborer's work. So we get to see an authority figure, and you have to trust and obey what he's saying is true to you. Always. Jesus gives us a command that transcends space and time too. Jesus gives us the Great Commission, which people are still following to this day. We're all people who are doing that right now. We're all here because Jesus gave us that command. We also see in John 4:46, John says, therefore. What's he talking about? What happened previously in this passage in John 4? We see the woman at the well. The woman at the well, after she hears Jesus, goes into her town and proclaims what she's seen and what she's heard. Let's look at John 4:28 through 30. So the woman left her water pot. Immediately when she heard the words of Jesus, she left what she was doing to go confess the word of Christ. She left her water pot and she went into the city. And she said to the men, come see a man who told me all the things that I have done. Is this not Christ? They went out of the city and they were coming to him. So because of her conviction, because of her belief in what Jesus told her, she went out and professed, and people came to Christ because of it. Jesus has so much authority that people are forced to listen. Have you seen the authority of Jesus in your life? Have you had someone on your life that was on death's bed and all you could do was go to Christ because everything in this world, all the authority on this world, all the power in this world was nothing? It's just, that's the answer. You have to go to Christ. There's no other option. The purpose of today's lesson is to examine the healing of the official son so that you will understand the authority of Jesus in your own life. Jesus has authority over all distance and space. We see this. Caden shows us this beautiful picture of the official and his belief. But I want to touch on the people in Capernaum that had the belief in Christ to go out and profess what they heard about Christ. And because of their confession, because of their conviction, they go out and they profess, and the official, because of that, goes and seeks out Christ. He goes and seeks out that higher authority because all the authority he has is useless. We see that throughout all of the Bible. So he gets to Jesus, he gets to Cana, and he goes and he asks, Lord, please save my son. How often do we go to the Lord and we ask for this thing and it doesn't happen, and we get mad, we get frustrated, we moan and we complain because it doesn't happen. We want it to happen. How selfish of us. What's the official do? The official doesn't complain, he doesn't moan when Jesus says, all you people want is signs and wonders. He goes and he asks again. He doesn't fight, he doesn't get mad, he just says, please save my son. And Jesus, because that says, go, your son's healed. And without question, again, without denying, he immediately obeys Christ. He leaves and he goes to his son. Why can't we do the same? We get to see Jesus do the impossible when he heals the official's son. We also see another example of this in Luke 7, 1 through 10. We see Jesus heal the centurion's servant from a distance. So we see throughout both these stories that Jesus can do things and he doesn't have to be there. These two people of authority, both the Roman official and the centurion, had authority on this world, and it meant nothing. Absolutely nothing. They had to go to the highest authority, which is God. I used to work as a supervisor in a maintenance company. And in this story, I'm no longer the dummy worker. I was the person of authority. I told other people to do the dummy work. And they had to come to me and get permission to go do things, to go into people's apartments to make sure that they could do the jobs that they were supposed to do. Sometimes I wouldn't be there. Sometimes I would be in the office doing paperwork, and they'd have to call me. And over that, I could give them the authority, the permission, because I had the authority to let them go into the rooms. So why do we go and profess what we've seen and heard? Well, I already told you at the start. It's because of the Great Commission, Matthew 28, 18 through 20. We go and tell people what we've seen and heard because we were told to, because the authority told us to go do it, and we are obedient to the authority. We see throughout the entirety of the Bible people going out and confessing what they've seen and what they've heard. We see it in John 4 with the woman at the well. We see it with Peter and John before the court when they tell them, we cannot stop talking about what we've seen and heard because it's so important, because that is what we were told to do. We see in Paul. And I would say Paul is the embodiment of going and confessing what he's seen and what he's heard. Because to this day, because of his conviction, so many people have come to know Christ. Because of his conviction to go and tell people about what he's seen and heard. How are we supposed to see signs and wonders if we don't look for them? Did the official wait for a sign and wonder to happen? He didn't. He went out and he went to seek out Jesus. He couldn't sit and wait. He had to get it done. He didn't lie dormant. He didn't sit. A good friend of mine always said, don't be a backseat Baptist. Don't sit in the back and just do nothing. Go. Confess what you're supposed to. Don't sit dormant. Jesus has all authority. We see this throughout the 4 Gospels, and he tells us right in Matthew 28. I have all authority. Where do we go for Jesus' authority? What do we do with it? We have to put it on our hearts. We have to start living out the Great Commission. We have to find the workers for the field. We have to go and be obedient to what he said, to his authority. We're on a mission field. Our mission field doesn't start when we say we're going to AIM, when we say we're going to SIBI. It doesn't start when we finish SIBI or when we finish AIM or when we go on the field. Our mission field starts every morning that you wake up and you confess that Jesus is your Lord. Every morning that you go out and you say, I'm a follower of Christ, that is your mission field. It never stops. So I'll leave you with this. What are we waiting for? Let's go. Let's put our faith into action. Tell your testimony of how Jesus was there for you so that somebody else might know Christ, so that they might have that seed planted in them to go and seek out the Lord, just like the Roman official did. The Roman official, because of what people had told him, went out and sought Christ. Let's do the same.